Sure, I'm Josh Diaz, game designer. I work on systems and rewards.
I'm Roy Kronecker, a game designer and team lead for Mounts team and Creatures team.
So Mounts team. So is the masteries just all mounts, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, actually, that's the surprise of this session. When we were building out, designing what the masteries for the expansion could be, we realized that the best ideas we had, we looked at HOT, right, and the things that were the most beloved from that, gliding, bouncing mushrooms, some of the work that was done in Season 3, and the things that seemed most appealing were about these big movement-focused powers that players could use anywhere, that they could apply in different ways. And that dovetailed immediately to what the Mounts team was working on. And so, we realized that taking the mastery system and using that to handle the progression of the mounts and letting the mounts be the focus of kind of the movement seemed to handle things really well, really elegantly.
It was something we discovered, and they just happened to go hand in hand and really integrate really well, because we have these mounts that do really cool movement abilities that a player normally can't do. And each one has its own unique thing, and then masteries are a way to take that and push it even further, upgrading those movement abilities, upgrading engage skills, sharing things across mounts. So it led to really cool progression for that mount.
Right.
It's less about necessarily like new movement things, but improving a lot of what you already have. So like the Raptor that you saw has like a long distance leap to cross like gaps. It has a mastery that basically makes it twice as far. So instead of going 800 distance, it goes 1600 distance, which is like really far, way further than any player has experienced.
And that's one of the things that when we were thinking about like progression in Path of Fire, and generally throughout, was that we wanted to make sure that things we were building were really focused, really fantastic, that everything that was in here felt awesome. And so rather than build 24 masteries across 10 different lines, it was like, no, let's focus and let's make sure that each one is really big, carries a lot of impact, and feels really substantial when you get it. So each mount getting one line with 4 traits, allows us to make sure that each one of those feels really awesome and would be useful to every player.
Yeah, we wanted players to really care about each one of those upgrades, because they all should be meaningful.
So just as when you leveled up your masteries in Heart of Thorns, you were able to access new areas of the map, is it going to be the same with mounts?
Yeah, it's very similar. So you unlock your mount, and it comes with that mastery line. And the mounts are spread out across all the maps in the expansion. It's very much set up to feel very natural as you play through. So you unlock the Raptor and its mastery line, you use it and learn how to use its movement ability as you play with it more and more, realize the things you can do, upgrade its abilities. Then you get to experience unlocking the next mount, and then so on and so on. And it's kind of the smooth progression of you play across the expansion, unlock these mounts, their masteries, upgrade them. And it shouldn't feel grindy or anything like that. It should feel like I'm playing through the expansion and I'm unlocking and basically leveling up these cool things along the way.
And for the most part, like every mount is useful on every different map. So there's backtracking, and like it's not like, we've gotten halfway through and I never use the Raptor anymore. It still has plenty of places where it's useful, but it's also a fair amount of the environments that we've designed in Path of Fire can be traversed in multiple ways. That each mount is suited to certain types of challenges, but there's also, these are big environments, and so maybe you don't want to leap across here. Maybe you want to go around and use your Springer to leap up from behind, or you want to use the Jackal to like dash across to the cave system underneath. There may be multiple ways to crack each particular area.
Our environmental artists did a really good job of adding a lot of different subtle let's say, shortcuts to different areas. Like, we don't want them to feel too intrusive, like, to the, like, main path, but they're definitely there. Like, there could be a broken bridge and a short, like, little curve around that, but you could use the raptor to jump over it too, or cliff, or a bunch of different things.
The handful of places where there is kind of more strict gating, or places where it makes a lot of sense, and it's something that fits both the story of the area and the pacing of where the player is. So it shouldn't feel like arbitrary or surprise, and kind of clever, persistent players will be able to find their way really easily.
What were some of the design decisions that you made to make mounts fun and unique to Guild Wars 2 as opposed to what MMO players typically think of when they think of mounts?
Yeah, a lot of work went into creating a bunch of new tech for mounts. We created a new movement system, a new camera system. Like, we have unique physics for each mount so that they each have slightly different movement. Like, for example, the skimmer, since it's floating above the ground, has less friction and it feels more like a drift car sliding around. So we did a lot of little things like that to make each mount its own experience, from a lot of work through animations, adding character to each one of them. Like, the raptor sits down and kind of scratches its ear, like acting like a dog. Springer does a lot of cute things, like playing with its ears like a little cat, things like that. So we tried to add a lot more character and really push each mount to feel like its own unique experience, rather than having them all feel the same. So we have that on top of each one used as both an exploration tool and a toy in the world. So they have unique movement abilities that do accomplish some kind of exploration. But we made sure those are fun, really, just to run around the world and, like, just mess around with your friends.
That they fit the environments that they're in. They're intuitive to use, but they also reward, like, very skillful play. That's something that feels very much how Guild Wars 2 design works, right? That, like, oh, I can mess around and it's really fun. But if I've practiced, I can do something really exciting and incredible. Like, that is, I know Roy's team has put a lot of work in making sure they reward that, and the environment artists and the map designers have also thought about how could we use each mount in this area, in this location, in this event, chasing down this caffeinated script, things like that.
Yeah. It's very integrated throughout the whole expansion. We wanted to feel like mounts are really a part of Guild Wars and Path of Fire and really makes sense in the world.
Are mounts going to come to the core maps?
Yeah, they'll be available all in the open world. There'll be some places where they aren't, PvP and World v. World, and they'll be up to those teams if they adopt them at some point. And then old world instances, because we didn't want to mess with the balance for that, but instances moving forward will account for, now it's like story instances.
Yeah. And a handful of jumping puzzles, similar to the way we dealt with gliding. There's jumping puzzles in a few other locations where it really doesn't make sense, or you can ruin the experience or break things. But we've been pretty liberal with how well they're allowed, and we're kind of excited about what players will discover that we didn't anticipate.
Yeah, we want that experience of someone playing through even all the 1 to 80 experience with mounts, since they are account-wide, being able to start over on new character, maybe see how fast they can get to 80 or how fast they can world complete and stuff like that.
Which of the new mounts is each of your favorite?
My personal favorite is probably the skimmer. I'm biased. I did most of the movement on a lot of the mounts, designing it. But the skimmer, I could push the bounds to a little bit further than the other mounts. Since it is floating above the ground, it didn't have to feel as connected to the world. So I really played around with that, like, drifty kind of movement. So there's some slight slide into it. It gave a really unique experience. Like, when you go over water, you actually gain speed going over water. So it's really, you find these waterways and rivers that help you move across the terrain a lot faster. And just found it a lot of fun just to even go around in the old world with.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Jackal. Its teleports. I'm a very panicky player. I'll suddenly find myself with like 800 health and 3 mobs and be terrified. And so being able to I'm the kind of player who likes to hit the panic button. And the Jackal feels right for that. But it's also some of the puzzles that are built for it are just so intricate and cool and weird. And that also fits its background. Like, it occupies a really strange place. And when you find it, like, the story behind where they come from is really intriguing. And so I'm kind of into that, the mysteriousness of it. We hope players are as excited to play it as we are to make it.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.